Wrong breathing is overloading your shoulders and hips while you try to relax. Every inhale pushes effort up and down, fragmenting the trunk and keeping the body armed even in silence. What looks like regulation on the surface is, in fact, deep compensation. Meditating without reorganizing the respiratory base only teaches the mind to observe while the body remains divided. There is a way of breathing that redistributes load instead of accumulating it. The problem is in the pattern no one questions. The breath that rises too much locks the shoulders. The breath that doesn't involve the pelvis destabilizes the hips. Between the two, the trunk loses continuity and the nervous system interprets this as a subtle threat, maintaining constant vigilance. Leaving now means continuing to practice with a body that resists instead of supports. What you're going to discover here is the exact moment when stopping meditating becomes the first step toward truly reorganizing the body. Compensatory breathing works like this. When the air doesn't descend to the pelvis and doesn't involve the trunk as one continuous unit, it pushes effort out to the extremities. The shoulders rise to compensate for the lack of support below. The hips lose stability because the center doesn't sustain. The body fragments between tension on top and instability below. And no mental practice solves this, while the breath continues, creating the division. In ancient contemplative traditions, the body was structured before any attempt at silence. Practitioners learned to breathe so that the air would descend like weight to the base of the spine, creating an inner foundation. It wasn't a relaxation technique. It was a structural reorganization. The breath moved through the entire trunk, distributing pressure and tone in an integrated way. Only after that could silence settle into the body, because the body was already supporting itself without conscious command. The mechanism is direct. When the breath rises too much, it concentrates pressure in the upper chest and leaves the abdomen and pelvis uninvolved. Without balanced intra-abdominal pressure, the trunk loses functional rigidity. The shoulders compensate for this lack of central support by elevating. The hips become unstable because there is no weight descending. The nervous system detects this fragmentation and interprets it as a lack of structural safety, maintaining subtle alertness even when the mind is silent. The neuroscience of vagal tone reveals something fascinating. Breathing that involves the diaphragm, abdomen, and pelvis in an integrated way activates the ventral branch of the vagus nerve, signaling safety to the nervous system. When the air descends and creates balanced pressure in the trunk, the body interprets this as real internal support. Tone redistributes. The shoulders release because the center is sustaining. The hips settle because the weight finally descends. Vigilance decreases because the body recognizes it is structurally organized. This matters now because you may have been meditating for months or years and still feel the body armed. The breathing you use during practice may be reinforcing compensation instead of dissolving it. There is someone who lived exactly this fragmentation. A person who tried to quiet the mind while the body remained divided. What she discovered by reorganizing her breathing will show what happens when support finally emerges from within. Rhonda, 45, a writer, spent most of her days alone at home, trying to meet deadlines while her body asked for a pause that never came. She meditated every morning for 3 years, followed guided practices, watched videos about presence, and believed she was doing everything right. But every time she returned to the chair after meditating, her shoulders rose again, her jaw locked, and a diffuse tension took over her lower back and hips. The feeling was of being permanently armed. Her shoulders stayed elevated even when she tried to relax them consciously. Her hips felt unstable, with no real support underneath. Taking a deep breath didn't help. The more she tried to fill her lungs completely, the more she felt her chest expand upward and her shoulders rise along with it. Meditation brought mental silence for a few minutes, but her body stayed tense, divided between rigidity on top and fragility below. She tried yoga for months, thinking stretching would solve it. She got regular massages to loosen her shoulders. She went through bodywork sessions where the therapist pressed tension points while she breathed. None of it touched the root. The tension returned hours later, sometimes minutes. It was as if the body had a fixed pattern that no external intervention could undo. Rhonda began to feel there was something wrong with her, that maybe she wasn't capable of truly relaxing. During a somatic movement workshop she decided to take after cancelling a deadline for the third time that month, the instructor noticed how Rhonda was breathing. She was sitting on the floor, trying to follow a stretching exercise, when the instructor came up and asked her to take a deep breath. Rhonda filled her chest. The instructor placed a hand on Rhonda's abdomen and asked if she felt the air arrive there. Rhonda realized she didn't. The air rose, expanded her chest, lifted her shoulders, but never descended. The instructor explained that her breathing was creating compensation instead of support, and that her body interpreted this as a lack of internal structure. Rhonda began practicing that very day. Lying on the floor, she placed one hand on her abdomen and the other on her pelvis, trying to feel the air descend instead of rise. In the first attempts, nothing happened. But on the fifth breath, something changed. Her abdomen expanded differently. Her pelvis responded with a subtle weight. And for the first time in years, her shoulders yielded without conscious command. Rhonda felt her entire trunk involved, as if a continuity had formed between her chest, abdomen, and hips. You will feel the same reorganization now. The practice begins where the breath descends. The first step is to identify where the breath is creating compensation. Lie down on the floor or sit with your spine supported and place one hand on your chest and the other on your abdomen, just below the ribs. Inhale through your nose and observe which hand moves first. If the hand on the chest rises before the hand on the abdomen, the breath is rising too much, pushing effort into the shoulders instead of descending to create support. This pattern keeps the trunk fragmented and the nervous system in subtle alertness. Adjust the direction of the air. Inhale slowly through your nose, but this time direct the air downward, as if you were filling the abdomen before the chest. The hand on the abdomen should move first, expanding outward and to the sides. The chest moves afterward, subtly, without lifting the shoulders. Don't force it, don't hold it. Just direct the air to descend, creating balanced pressure in the trunk. Exhale through your mouth or nose, letting the abdomen return naturally without contracting. Repeat this 5 times, observing the sensations. You may feel warmth in the abdomen, weight descending toward the pelvis, or the shoulders beginning to yield without conscious command. This happens because the diaphragm is finally being engaged in an integrated way, creating intra-abdominal pressure that supports the trunk from the inside. The body recognizes this support as structural safety and redistributes tone. Tension in the shoulders decreases because the center is sustaining. The hips begin to settle because the weight finally descends. Add the pelvis. On the next inhale, as the abdomen expands, notice whether you can feel the air descending even further to the base of the pelvis. This is not about forcing air downward. It is about allowing the breath to involve the entire trunk, from the chest to the base of the spine. Place the hand that was on your chest on your pelvis, just above the pubic bone. Inhale and feel whether this area also moves, expanding slightly outward. If you feel it, you are creating respiratory continuity. If you don't feel it yet, keep directing the air to descend without hurry. Do this for 5 more breaths. With each cycle, the trunk organizes a little more. The air descends, pressure balances, the diaphragm moves in an integrated way, and the nervous system interprets this as safety. You may notice the jaw softening, the lower back relaxing against the floor, or the hips gaining weight. These are signs that the breath is redistributing load instead of accumulating it. The body is leaving compensation and finding real internal support. If the shoulders are still tense, make the following adjustment. On the next inhale, as the air descends to the abdomen and pelvis, let the shoulders drop back and down as if moving away from the ears. Don't force posture. Just allow the weight of the shoulders to yield while the center sustains. Exhale and keep the shoulders in that relaxed position. Inhale again, abdomen and pelvis first, shoulders loose. The body begins to understand that it doesn't need to compensate up top when there is support below. After 10 full breaths, pause. Stay in silence for a few seconds and notice what changed. The trunk may feel more unified. The breath may feel deeper without effort. The shoulders may be lower. Before moving on to the next step, there is something you need to know about Rhonda. Rhonda practiced functional breathing every day for 3 weeks. At first, she felt only small differences. Her shoulders lowered for a few minutes, but rose again. Her hips felt a bit more stable, but the instability returned when she sat down to write. Then, in the 3rd week, something changed permanently. She woke up, lay on the floor as usual. And when she began to breathe, directing the air to the abdomen and pelvis, her body responded differently. Her shoulders didn't rise even once. Her hips settled with real weight. Her entire trunk moved as one continuous unit, without fragmentation. For the first time in years, Rhonda was able to meditate without feeling her body armed. She sat in silence after the breathing practice, and the silence settled along with the body. There was no residual tension. There was no subtle vigilance. The nervous system had finally recognized that the body was structurally organized and safe. Rhonda realized she could sit and write for hours without feeling her shoulders rise, because the trunk was supporting the weight of posture from the inside. The breath had stopped being compensation and become support. This is exactly what is beginning to happen in your body now. The reorganization Rhonda lived over 3 weeks, you are initiating in this moment. The breath that descends creates the base. The next step integrates movement to consolidate this base even more deeply. You will synchronize the breath with micro movements that return support to the body. Stay in the same position, lying down or seated. Inhale, directing the air to the abdomen and pelvis, and as you inhale, Tilt the pelvis slightly backward, as if pressing the lower back against the floor or the back of the chair. Don't force it. The movement is minimal. Exhale and let the pelvis return to neutral. Repeat 5 times. This movement, synchronized with the breath, teaches the body to use the pelvis as a base of support, redistributing load instead of concentrating it in the shoulders. Add the shoulders. Inhale, abdomen and pelvis expand. Pelvis tilts back, and at the same time, let the shoulders roll slightly back and down. Exhale, everything returns to neutral. Inhale again, everything moves together. Air descends, abdomen expands, pelvis tilts, shoulders drop. Exhale, release. Do this 5 times. The body is learning that the breath organizes the entire trunk all at once, creating continuity between the center and the extremities. You may feel that posture supports itself without mental command. Finish with 3 full breaths, with no additional movement. Inhale, the air descends to the pelvis, the trunk expands as a unit, the shoulders remain low. Exhale, everything releases in an integrated way. Inhale again, feel the internal support. Exhale, last breath. Inhale deeply, feeling the entire trunk involved, and exhale slowly, allowing the body to settle into the weight it created itself. The practice is complete. The body reorganized the way it breathes, and this reorganization becomes the foundation for everything that comes after. The sign that the reorganization happened is in the breath that descends without effort. Place a hand on the abdomen and inhale. If the abdomen moves first, expanding outward and to the sides before the chest rises, the pattern has changed. If the shoulders remain low while you breathe deeply, the body has recognized internal support. If the hips are settled with real weight, the pelvis is involved. This is the marker, a breath that organizes the trunk instead of fragmenting it. To anchor this state, use the following gesture. Whenever you need to return to functional breathing, place one hand on the abdomen and the other on the pelvis. Inhale slowly through your nose, feeling the abdomen expand first, then the pelvis respond with a slight outward movement. Exhale through your mouth, letting everything return naturally. Do this 3 times. In less than a minute, the body remembers the organization and redistributes the load. You can do this seated, standing, anywhere, without drawing attention. When you feel the shoulders rising again or the hips losing stability in the coming days, stop whatever you're doing. Lie down or sit. Place your hands on the abdomen and pelvis and breathe, directing the air downward for 5 full cycles. As you do this, repeat internally. The center sustains, the extremities release. Don't force the shoulders down. Don't try to stabilize the hips consciously. Just breathe and let the trunk reorganize the body from the inside out. The respiratory reorganization you practiced now becomes the foundation of everything. The body learned to sustain itself through breathing, and that support changes how you sit, how you move, and how silence finally finds a place to settle. The body you are supporting right now is not the same as it was 10 minutes ago. The breath that descends to the pelvis reorganized the trunk from the inside out, redistributing load instead of accumulating it. The shoulders that were elevated now rest without conscious command. The hips that seemed unstable have settled with real weight. What changed was not only posture, but the way the nervous system interprets safety. The body recognized it can sustain itself through breathing, and this silent reorganization changes everything. This practice is an initial layer of something much deeper. Functional breathing prepares the ground for other forms of somatic reorganization, other releases waiting in the body. Each time you breathe, directing the air to the abdomen and pelvis, you are creating internal continuity that allows presence without effort. The silence meditation seeks only settles when the body is structurally organized. You have just created this base. Peter Levine said, "Trauma lives in the body, not the mind, and it is in the body that it dissolves." The breath that reorganizes, the trunk dissolves compensations no mental practice can reach. The air that descends creates real internal support, and that support informs safety to the nervous system in a way thoughts never can. God created the body as the foundation of consciousness. The source did not separate matter from spirit, but wove them into the same substance. When the breath organizes the trunk, you are not merely adjusting mechanics, you are aligning creation with Creator. The supported body is the body that can finally recognize the presence that was always there. If this content resonated with you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Your interaction sustains the continuity of this work and allows more people to access practices that integrate body, consciousness, and real transformation. In the comments, leave this affirmation: I breathe down to the pelvis and my shoulders release without command. By leaving this mark in the external world, you anchor in the body the reorganization you just experienced, sealing a neurological commitment to the pattern that now supports you. To keep exploring how the body reorganizes through functional somatic practices, there is other content available that deepens this journey. Click the video appearing on the screen to continue. The meditation you practice only reaches real depth when the body that meditates has already learned to sustain itself from within.